Rivalry week did not disappoint. Texas dogwalked the Aggies in College Station. Michigan upset Ohio State in the Horseshoe. And South Carolina beat Clemson, keeping them, at least for now, in playoff contention. Welcome back to No Huddle Sports. Let's get right into it. In this video, we're going to go through who I think are my locks, who is likely in, who needs a win and they're in, and then some teams that need some help. Let's go ahead and take a look at my locks. These are teams that I think that should be in no matter what happens this weekend. So we got Texas. Texas dominated the Aggies in College Station, secured their spot in the SEC championship game against Georgia. A little bit of a rematch. I think if they win, they'll be a top 1 or 2 seed, get the first round bye, SEC champ. If they lose, I like them to host a playoff game. I really don't see them dropping that far out. I don't think the committee is going to penalize them for, playing this extra game, playing an SEC championship game. I think they put a lot of respect on that one. So I feel like Texas will either be a top 2 seed or they will host a playoff game. Oregon, same boat. The only undefeated team in the playoff bracket this year, potentially. So I think if they win, stay undefeated, they'll be the number 1 overall seed. And then I think, like Texas, if they do lose to Penn State, I think that they will be one of those teams that'll get to host a playoff game. I don't see them dropping further than that. Notre Dame, with the 1 loss on the year to Northern Illinois, they can't be a top 4 seed, but I feel like the committee, they're going to have them in no matter what, just the 1 loss. So I think they are going to be probably around the 6. I think they'll get to host a playoff game in South Bend. But I don't think that they can't be any higher than that. Not really. They could be 5, but I think they'll fall probably around that 6. We have SMU. SMU's got the 1 loss on the year. So I think that SMU should be a lock. I think that they're going to go to the ACC championship game, play Clemson. They win, they're a top 4 seed. No questions asked. I feel like they really should. They've earned it. They should be one of those top 4 seeds. If they lose, though, I don't think it's the same situation as Texas and Oregon. I feel like if SMU were to lose, be a 2-loss team, I think they would fall into one of those bottom 4 seeds and have to go on the road in the first round. But I still think they should be in regardless. And that's a similar situation for Penn State. Penn State's got the 1 loss. I think that they should, if they win, top 4 seed. But if they lose, I think, they'll fall down, end up being one of those road teams in the first round. But I think they should be in regardless. All of my locks are either undefeated or 1-loss teams going into championship weekend. Let's go ahead and take a look at the teams that I think are likely in. So we got Georgia, Tennessee, Ohio State, and Indiana. So Georgia, playing in the SEC championship game, I don't think the committee will penalize them if they go and they lose to Texas. So if they win, they'll be a top 2 seed. If they lose, though, I think they'll end up staying pretty much right where they're at right now. And they'll end up hosting one of those first-round playoff games. For Tennessee, they got 2 losses. They are not playing in the championship game this weekend. So they're kind of just in one of those wait-and-see situations. I think they will likely earn themselves, just kind of how they finished the year, one of those hosting seeds. They'll get to play the first round in Knoxville. That's kind of where I think they'll end up. Ohio State, coming off the embarrassing loss to Michigan, really kind of screwed the pooch here towards the end. They had everything going their way. They were supposed to go into the Big 10 championship game, earn themselves that rematch against Oregon, and prove that the 1-point loss at the beginning of the year was a fluke or that they deserved to be in that conversation. But instead, they decide to lose to Michigan, 6-5 team at home as a 20-point favorite. With all that said, though, they're still a 2-loss team, but I think with kind of how they finished the year, I think Ohio State will probably lose the opportunity to host. Honestly, I think they're going to end up falling probably the first team to be one of those road teams. I think they'll be one of the 9. I think they'll be around 9 or 10, probably 9, and then go on the road in that first round. Similar for Indiana. I think even with the one loss, I think Indiana will probably end up going on the road. I think just their strength of schedule and then the one good team they played, Ohio State, beat them pretty good. And then Ohio State loses to Michigan. So that really doesn't do great things for Indiana's strength of schedule. And they may say, okay, yeah, we're the better team and everyone has been underestimating us all year. Well, they'll get that opportunity right there in the first round. But I think they will go on the road in the first round. Let's take a look at the teams that I think if they win that they're going to be in. So that's going to be the Big 12 championship game. We got Arizona State, Iowa State. We got Clemson, and we got Boise State. So for Iowa State, Arizona State, both teams got 2 losses. Whoever wins, they're going to play, and then they're going to get in as the Big 12 champion, as one of the top 4 ranked champions. Now, where they'll be seeded, I think that they should earn that top 4 seed and that first round bye, because they're going to be comparing themselves against either Clemson as the ACC champ or Boise State. Now, if SMU wins the ACC championship, they're going to get the 3, and so then it's basically Boise State, Big 12. Assuming Boise State wins, which one of them will get that 4 seed? And I think if you look at Big 12 opponents versus Mountain West opponents, the Big 12 just plays a tougher schedule. They play tougher opponents week in and week out, and I think that should earn them the 4 seed. Now we get to Clemson. So Clemson could be one of those 3-loss teams, and their only way of getting in is winning the ACC championship. As I mentioned earlier, I think SMU with just the 1 loss, they should be in regardless of what happens. I think it would be very disappointing to see SMU if they get penalized by losing in the ACC championship game. They don't make it into the bracket. I think they are one of the 12 best teams in college football this year. So if Clemson were to win, I feel like Clemson, this could be a situation where Boise State would be ahead of the 3-loss team, because I think that would push the Big 12 up into the 3 spot, and then I think that would put Boise State at the 4 spot, and then the 3-loss Clemson would be seeded however they may be ranked by the playoff committee, because if Boise State just has the 1 loss, I don't think that they're going to get jumped by a 3-loss Clemson team, regardless of strength of schedule. I think that's just too many losses. And then for Boise State, sitting there with a 1 loss, being a group of 5 team, I think if they were to lose this week, they're not going to get an at-large bid. So they pretty much have to win, and then they're in. It's as simple as that. And then kind of depending on how the Big 12 and the ACC championship games go, we'll see if they can either get one of those 3 or 4 seeds, depending on what the committee does, or if they're going to be ranked as one of those at-large bid teams and then go on the road or get to host a playoff game. Now we get to the fun part. Let's talk about the teams that could be in, have an argument to be in, but they need a little bit of help, either from the playoff committee or from some other teams this weekend. So those teams, we got 3 SEC teams in that bunch. We got Alabama, South Carolina, Ole Miss, and then we also have Tulane and UNLV. So Alabama is coming off their most recent loss to Oklahoma, sitting there at 3 losses. They have beat Georgia, but they lost to Vandy. They lost to OU badly on the road, lost to Vandy on the road. So their best win on the year is Georgia at home. Ole Miss, very similar. They've just beat Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl, but they're coming off the loss to Florida. They got that loss to Kentucky, and they got the loss to LSU. So they really just have the win against Georgia, and that's their best win on the year. So that's kind of what their resume is looking like. And then you got South Carolina. So arguably out of those 3 SEC teams, South Carolina is playing the best. They are trending upward. I think they're on a 5 or 6 game winning streak. They just beat Clemson in rivalry week. So it's kind of, if you're going based on who's trending up and who's trending down, I would say South Carolina is on a more upward trajectory than Ole Miss and Alabama. But I think when it comes down to it, most likely the playoff committee is going to take Alabama in that situation. If it comes down to those three teams, I think it's going to come down to brand recognition. And I think Alabama will probably get the benefit of the doubt in this situation and go ahead and take that last at-large spot if it's available for one of these three-loss SEC teams. Now we can get into the Tulane UNLV situation. So these teams come into play should Boise State lose. So obviously that would kind of go to UNLV. Look at them first. They would have to beat Boise State for this to be in consideration. Sitting there at 10-2, but they would need to either hope for, because right now they're ranked lower than Tulane. So they would need for either an Army win in their championship game over Tulane, or they would need a really close game where Tulane didn't look that great, and they would have to look awesome in beating Boise State. I think that is a situation where UNLV could jump Tulane and get that group of 5 spot by winning their championship. And then the same kind of applies for Tulane. If they go in there and they blow out Army in their championship game, look great doing it, and then UNLV kind of sneaks by Boise State, I think Tulane would jump in there and secure that group of 5 spot. But neither of these are really going to be possible. I don't think if Boise State wins and Tulane wins, for example, I don't think Tulane will jump Boise State. I think Boise State's kind of got that spot secured if they go ahead and win their championship game. Let's go ahead and take a look at how that bracket would shake out. So my top 4 seeds, we got Oregon at 1, Texas at 2, SMU at 3, and Arizona State from the Big 12 in the 4 spot. And then for the hosting seeds, we'll have a game at Georgia, a game in Tennessee, Notre Dame will host, and then I think Boise State will host a playoff game. So Georgia will play Alabama. That'll be the 5-12 game. Tennessee will host Ohio State. That'll be the 8-9 game. Then we have the 6-11 game, Notre Dame versus Indiana in South Bend. And then Boise State will host Penn State is kind of how I think Boise State will land with the top 4 seeds going to the Big 10, Big 12, ACC, and SEC. So go ahead and let me know down in the comments below. Let me know what you think I got right, what I got wrong, what you would have different. And we'll go ahead and kind of see what the committee has for us on Tuesday night. Thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.